Greetings. Today I want to speak to you concerning why I stop arguing with Christians and why I will never ever argue with a Christian again. You see, I grew up in secular Christianity that has been pointing me all my life to look outwardly. And I realize it is built and trying to change others instead of changing yourself. So because I had some of that remaining inside of me, when I come to spirituality and know who I am through experience, I wanted was to share the knowledge with others. And so when I speak to my farmer brothers and sisters and show them that I would have gone beyond what we were taught. And the reason why I would have went beyond, it is because I was open-minded and willing to grow and transcend. I was willing to expand. I didn't just want to stay on what was passed down to me. Okay, and so these days what I will do, I will allow a religious person to speak and I will never disagree with them. All I will do is take what they say to me and make more sense of it for them. So, for example, a person can quote any scripture in the Bible to me, and I'll take that scripture and make more sense of it to them in such a way that they themselves will never disagree with what I am saying. Most likely they will say to themselves they never really see it that way, and they're seeing it that way for the very first time. And so those of you who are listening to me, and you may have friends, you may have relatives who are still trapped in secular Christianity, please do not try to project yourself onto them. Let them project themselves onto you, because you see, when we blame people and when we point finger at people and we judge people, that's what we are actually doing. You see, no one could have a thought for you and you can't have a thought for anyone. And so when people say, you make me do this, you make me say this, and so on, that is just basically people playing the blaming game, but you're just not aware of it. When people say the devil make me do this, and when people say the enemy, and they refer to someone outside of themselves, it's always they projecting their thoughts onto someone else, even onto an entity that they cannot see. But my brother, my sister, when you think more deeply and you realize that you're always speaking to yourself, you know that when you pray, you're also speaking to yourself. And that is why you must understand the Bible from a metaphysical and esoteric standpoint. From the standpoint of all is mind. Knowing that the Bible is psychological and it is not literal. And so, instead of you trying to convert someone from their belief system, it would always be better if you would listen to them, allow them to speak, and use their own words against them. Not your words, their words. So you say, okay, a while ago you said such and such and such. Can I elaborate on what you would have said? Okay. And then you show, okay, there's two sides of one coin. There's a lot of polarity. You see, you can't have darkness without light, and you can't have light without darkness. You can't have good without evil, and you cannot have good without evil. So one is always to reflect the other. And so when you realize that the church system religious system is needed in every society, because some people just cannot think articulately, if there's such a word, okay? And some people lack accountability. Let me use that word, okay? And so, because they lack accountability and they don't want to take responsibility for their thoughts and for their words and their action, you give them an imaginary being to blame, okay? But those of us who understand how the mind works, we understand our higher self and we understand our lower self. We realize that God and the devil is the polar opposite of the same coin. You're the same person. So when you look in the mirror, you can either see God or you can see the devil. Okay, so when you understand the law of polarity, when you understand the law of mentalism, you know, when you understand the law of rhythm, when you understand the law of correspondence, and you understand all of these infinite, divine, immutable laws, you can definitely have exercise the patience to listen to a religious person speak and contradict themselves every time without disagreeing with them. The worst thing you could tell a religious person or a Christian is that you disagree with what they say. Don't disagree. You say, I agree with what you say, but this is how I see it. If you would allow me to speak and you give me a chance to explain myself. You know, for example, me being on social media and I always show my face, you know, I would like, you know, for someone who's a Christian to be willing to show their face and show the world that they stand for what they say they believe. And if they would like to challenge the things that I'm saying, I would like them to do that and prove that I'm a liar when I say that the Bible is a book of mind science. I want them to prove that I'm a liar when I said that every book that has ever been written, it was first a thought, it was first an idea, it was first imagined, it was first in someone's mind. Then I would want them to tell the listeners that they didn't use their mind to disagree with me, or to tell the listeners that they didn't have a thought. You know, there are people who normally say there's such a thing as premeditated murder and a murder that wasn't premeditated. Don't make the judiciary system trick you. The judiciary system is just, let me put it this way. The judiciary system comes off of the real law system, okay, the real true justice system, which I just mentioned a while ago, showing you that we are governed by certain law and certain order. And the pattern from that, okay, to give you the judiciary system. So when they tell you something could be premeditated and something cannot be premeditated, it's not true. You've been carrying around that all the time. You've been involved in self-talk all the time before you even commit that thing, before you ever do that thing. But you forget. So, my brother and my sisters, when you really understand these things, you see that there's no need to argue with a Christian or a religious person. It doesn't make any sense. You argue with them or try to prove them wrong or any such a thing as that. It is very, very, very good for you to listen to them. Okay? And sometimes I would say to them, based on the things they say, I say, okay, make that make sense. Like when I met two priests just recently. I was driving and I saw them by the side of the road and I stopped and I asked them a question concerning Jesus, if he used to have erection like me, wet dreams like me and so on and all of that, because the Bible says he was touched with all our infirmities. They didn't answer the question straight on. They say he was totally human and totally divine. So I said to him that, don't you believe that you're actually having a human experience and you're not really a human but having a human experience and that you are divine? He said, no, he's human but he's not divine. But yet one who's totally human and totally divine is touched with all of your infirmities. Make that make sense. Just ask them to make it make sense. And you'll find they cannot make it make sense. Because they're speaking nonsense. Okay? So, my brother and my sisters, those of you who have been transcending and been coming to a place of knowing who you are, I'm saying to you, avoid getting in argument with religious people, but listen to them and give them an audience. Okay? Let them speak and take what they say and make better sense of it for them. Okay? Because you understand it at a higher level. So, with that being said, my brother, my sisters, I want to thank you very much for listening to me. I want to say to you, if this is the very first time that you're listening to me, what I'm saying, if it makes sense to you, if it really resonates with you, and you haven't subscribed already, I definitely want to encourage you to subscribe, to like, to comment, to share this video. Also, if you like to follow me on Instagram, you like to follow me on TikTok, you can definitely follow me at Black Mad Guru. If you like to get my books, all of the links down below, you have 10 or more books to choose from. Okay? Also, if you like to do a one-on-one with me, you can drop me an email and we can set up a one-on-one. And if you'd like to become a part of my Patreon community, you're most welcome. I have a course there that's called The Inner Sun Science and Technology to Create Your Reality Conscious, and along with that is a bonus course on self-concept. So, with that being said, my brother, my sisters, my last encouragement is to make sure that you check out all of the links that are down below and definitely let your intuition lead you and guide you into what to do. So with that being said, I just want to say peace. Love you all. I'm out.